Let's do episode 2 of our casual history. I think people enjoyed the last time. They told me they enjoyed it last time, and I enjoyed doing it. I guess it helps me to put down history. We came back in, I think, January again. I have to check the dates sometime. We came back and started having church again in the evening or early afternoon, and we Christian Brothers had this wonderful pit back then that was down that you could sit down to, and it was carpeted, and then the rest of the floor was wooden, and the walls were wooden like they are now, and so that's where we were meeting. And I can remember someone giving me a prophetic word. I had met some people that were that moved in prophetic. I guess none of us really did. We did, but all Christians do, but you don't know you do. But these people would actually get a word for you. And I can remember this night in May of 1990. I went to a house group in Southside, and at the end of it, one of the women came up and said, I saw something. Is it okay if I tell it to you? They were very polite. And I said, well, sure. Yeah, you can tell it to me. And so the word was, it said, well, I saw a tree. I saw a tree, large oak tree, and it was cut down real close to the ground. And everybody thought it was dead. But that it started putting out shoots, and eventually the tree became larger than it was before, and more leaves. It had more limbs. It was just a much larger tree than it had been before. And that's what I saw. I said, well, okay, thank you. With that, wrote it down, I think, maybe. So that was 1990. I went to a church growth conference in Houston, Texas, that Tom Stott was putting on. Tom was the vineyard pastor in Denver at the time. I can remember that I went to a national conference in Denver, and Paul Cain had been there, and saw him give words which were very accurate with people, and just amazingly so when you talk to him later about what he saw. It me that, wow, God still does this. He still does it. So after the conference in Houston, I got kind of disheartened, because I thought, well, church growth, I just can't. I think the conference was on something like how to grow your church 100 or something like that. And I was just I kept going over the list of things to do and go, these don't match my personality. I don't think I can do this. To the point that Tom came by and talked to me at lunch one day and said, you okay, Jim? I said, I don't think so. I don't think I can. Oh yeah, you can do these things. So I came back and tried doing these things. And then after that, while I was trying that, I wanted to try some more stuff. So I started a cell church that was going on. There was a really big vineyard in Champaign, Illinois, and they were setting their church up like a cell church with all these cells. And even the pastor was putting out special bulletins, strategy sessions, called it something like North Star Strategies, and he was really good at it. Now, I think he had been a CPA before he became a vineyard pastor. So I don't know. I got into this stuff. The only problem was reading and studying and listening to things, and the church was getting smaller every week, almost. And you kind of come to that point of realization, I am tired of this. So I called up Johnny Chris. He was our area pastor. Maybe he'd become, I don't think he'd become the over yet, but he was area. And we had shifted, or maybe he was regional. We shifted from New Orleans because it was 400 miles there to where Chuck lived, and Atlanta was a lot closer to Guess. And I like the guys over there too. Didn't know them as well as I did New Orleans. So he gets on the phone and he says, "Well, y'all been doing this for a while, and why don't you just consider laying it down? Why don't you just go to the Gadsden Vineyard, take a break for a while?" And this was one of those times that my wife Jan was very practical, and she got on the been listening in. She spoke a lot Jan-like mannerisms, which were really true. She said, "Excuse me, Johnny. Don't you think that God could probably speak to Jim as clearly about starting a church? I mean, it's stopping a church and changing as he did starting a church." And so I said, he said, "Well, you're absolutely right, Jim." So he said, "I'll talk to y'all later sometime. You call me if you need whatever y'all feel like you should do," and hung up. So that kind of ended that idea. So I ended up I hear people coming in for the Wednesday night service downstairs. So I can remember she and I talking, saying, "You know what? Let's we've already done this one time about going back to where it was fun, but when we gone back to our house after the building at Western 1911, I'm just going to start back." This was November of '93. "I'm just going to start back. I'm going to play my guitar. There's a couple of musicians left. They'll sit in with me. There's about a dozen people. We'll just go back and do what we did in the very, very beginning. Let's just sit around, worship, for each other, and listen to what the Holy Spirit wants to do." So we started that, and after a week, that was good. After 2 weeks, the Holy Spirit started moving, doing things with us, and then as we come around into January of '94, I don't know that all the Toronto Vineyard Christian. Let's see, the Toronto Airport Vineyard Christian Fellowship. They're at the end of a strip mall. I'm there to speak on January the 20th, '94, and the Holy Spirit comes with such power that Randy was going to stay 4 days. He was going to speak. His worship leader was going to speak 2 days, and they ended up staying, I think, 5 weeks. And Randy said he spoke like 42 times in the first 6 weeks or 60-some days of the meetings. So I start hearing about this. I start hearing that some people are calling me and leaving me messages saying that revival has fallen in Toronto. Now, being raised Baptist, revival, we planned them. We when I was young, we chose to have them. We would pick a week and we'd have a revival that week. And then later, as I got older, we'd cut back to maybe 3-day revivals. I said revival's falling. I didn't know what they were talking about exactly. What do you mean revival? No, well, revival's falling. You need to go to Toronto. One guy called me from Windsor that had friends here in town. His name's Randy, and so we decided that if it was still going on when summer came, we would drive to Toronto and check this out, because there was a trickle of life that had started in November, and it was getting better, but now I was ready to and give up schemes. I wasn't going to go try church growth. I wasn't going to try cell church anymore. I think I maybe even thrown the books away and gave it to somebody that wouldn't do it. I totally got out of all that, and I was starting to have fun again. And so we drive to Toronto. We get to meet in at the end of the airport. It really was at a strip mall at the end of the airport. Planes coming over from overhead, and we timed it where John Wimber was making his first visit there. So we got to see John. Hadn't seen him in a while. He had his cancer therapy and stuff, and he looked pretty tired and sickly, but he lit up and smiled when he saw us and went, "Yeah, look, hey, you guys." He said, "Carol's always asking me if we still have those artists in Gadsden in our church." He says, "Yeah, we still have them. There's a pin still on the wall on the big world map there." So it was powerful. It was as strong as I'd felt the Spirit in 1984 in California. It was strong. And then they rented a special building that became their church down the road. And so the next time at their place, we went down the road and had a little conference. Remember being there for 2 or 3 days, and that was pretty good. That was So we decided, since we'd driven up there, that we would go back by the Blue Ridge Parkway. I hadn't been on it since I was 2 years old, so I didn't really remember the Blue Ridge Parkway, but I can tell you that it's a long, long drive. A lot of beautiful mountains, but a long, curving, makes you dizzy drive. And as we're coming back, we start talking, going, well, they're going to be in California in 3 weeks at Anaheim, and everybody's going to be there. Randy Clark's going to be there, and John and Carol Arnott, and Landy David Roos, and everybody. We all love David Roos leading, and Wesley Campbell was there. Stacy Campbell. These are all people that were being used in all this a lot. And so I call back home and check on the church, and driving, and because we've been gone for a few weeks, and tell them that we're going to go to this. Well, by the time we got back home here to Gadsden, we had, counting children, we had 17 people going to fly. So 17 of us go to California, and it's powerful. It's a really powerful time when we go to California. It's really, really good. So right there, the next time, you remind me to talk about California and what happened, because there was a really interesting story that happened there.